welcome you to our Good Friday service, sometimes referred to as a service of tenebrae, which refers to shadow and light. Tonight we're going to be reading various passages from the Gospel of Matthew that reveal to us or remind us steps that would lead to the cross for Jesus. After each reading, a candle will be extinguished until all of the candles are extinguished, including the Christ candle, representing the light of Christ, the light of the world, being taken out of the world. We hope that as you listen, you will reflect on all that God in Jesus has done and is doing on our behalf.
Following the Passover meal, Jesus and the disciples sung the traditional hymn and then went out to the Mount of Olives. There, Jesus said to them, "You will all desert me this night, for it is written in the Scriptures, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." Peter said to him, "Even if everyone else deserts you, I will not." Jesus said to him, "The truth is, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, "Even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you." The other disciples said the same thing. They left the Mount of Olives and went to a place called Gethsemane. When they arrived, Jesus asked his disciples to sit and wait while he walked a short distance from them to pray. He took Peter and James and John with him, and they began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "I am deeply grieved about my death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he returned to find the disciples sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Couldn't you stay awake with me for 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may avoid the trial ahead. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Jesus, he went away for the second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." After praying, he returned to find Peter, James, and John sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he came once again to the disciples and said to them, "How can you sleep and rest? The hour is at hand, and I am about to be betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, we need to go. My betrayer is near."
Even as Jesus was speaking about his betrayal, Judas, one of his disciples, arrived with a large mob from the chief priests and the leaders of the people. They were armed with swords and clubs. Judas had given them a signal. "The one I will kiss on the cheek is the one you want. Arrest him." Then he approached Jesus and said to him, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus said to him, "My friend, what are you doing?" Immediately, some of the mob seized Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly, one of those with Jesus drew his sword and cut off the ear of the high priest. Jesus said to him, "Put your sword away. All who use the sword will perish by it. Don't you realize that I could ask my Father, and he would send 12 legions of angels to my rescue? But if that were to happen, the scriptures that speak of this moment could not be fulfilled." Jesus then turned his attention to the gathered mob. "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me like a common criminal? Every day I have been openly teaching in the temple, and you did not arrest me then. All this is taking place so that the words of the prophet may come true." At this point, all the disciples ran away.
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to the home of Caiaphas, the high priest. The scribes and the elders had gathered there. All the while, Peter was following at a safe distance. When Jesus was taken into the house, he remained in the courtyard where the guards were stationed to see what would happen. The chief priests and the council were trying to find someone who would testify against Jesus, so they could have him put to death. But they found no one. A few false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 people spoke up and said, "This man said that he could destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." At this point, the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "What is your response to this accusation?" Jesus did not respond. "Do you hear what they are saying about you?" Again, Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him, "I ask you under oath before the living God, are you the Messiah, the Son of God?" Jesus said to him, "That's what you say. But I say, soon you will see the Son of Man, sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." When the high priest heard this, he tore his clothes and said to the council, "He has lied in the presence of God. We don't need any witnesses. You heard what he said. What is your verdict?" The members of the council replied, "He deserves to die." Then they spat in his face and hit him. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Messiah. Which one of us hit you?" Meanwhile, Peter was still in the courtyard. A servant girl approached him and said, "Weren't you with Jesus, the Galilean?" But Peter denied it before everyone present. "I don't know what you're talking about." He walked out of the courtyard, and another servant girl saw him and pointed out to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." Peter insisted, "I do not know the man." A little while after this encounter, some other bystanders came up to Peter and said, "You must be one of his disciples. You have a Galilean accent." Peter began to curse, and he swore, "I do not know the man." At that very moment, the rooster crowed, and Peter remembered what Jesus had said to him. "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Upon remembering this, he walked away and wept bitterly.
The next morning, all the chief priests and the elders got together and conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him and led him away to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, his betrayer, saw what was happening, he repented and brought back the 30 pieces of silver that he had been given by the chief priests and elders to identify Jesus. "I have sinned against an innocent man. His blood is on my hands." They said to him, "That's your problem. Take care of it yourself." Judas threw the silver coins onto the floor of the temple and left. After all of this, he hung himself.
But the chief priest, taking the pieces of silver, said, "It is not lawful to put these into the treasure, since they are blood money." After conferring together, they used them to buy the potter's field as a place to bury foreigners. For this reason, that field has been called the field of bloods to this day. Then was fulfilled what has been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of the one whom a price had been set, on whom some of the people of Israel had set a price, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord commanded me. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But when he was accused by the high priests and elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to them, "Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?" But he gave them no answer, not even a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now, at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At that time, they had an anonymous prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate had said to them, "Who do you want me to release for you? Jesus Barabbas, or Jesus, who they call Messiah?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him to him. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with the innocent prisoner. For today I have suffered a great deed because of the dream about him." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked, "Why? What has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified."
When Pilate saw that he could do nothing to prevent a riot, he took some water and washed his hands so the crowd could see him. "I am innocent of this man's blood. Deal with this yourselves." The people in the crowd responded, "May his blood be on us and our children." Pilate released Barabbas, flogged Jesus, and handed him over to be crucified. The soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters. and they gathered others around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. Then they twisted some thorns into a crown and put it on his head. They placed a stick in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the stick and struck him on the head. After this, they removed the robe and put his clothes back on him. Then they led him away to crucify him.
As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And then when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes amongst them by casting lots. Then they sat down and kept watch over him there. Over his head they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. And those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads, saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, also along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he wants to. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And the bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way. From noon on, darkness came over the whole country until 3 in the afternoon. At about that time, Jesus cried with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When the bystanders heard this, they said, "He's calling for Elijah." Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge filled with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But others said, "Wait, let's see if Elijah will come to save him." Then once more, Jesus cried with a loud voice and took his last breath. Let us hear these words from the prophet Isaiah. He has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet he was believed to be stricken, struck down by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the punishment that made us whole, and by his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have all turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By a miscarriage of justice, he was taken away. Who could have imagined his future? He was cut off from the land of the living, stricken for the transgressions of my people. They made his grave with the wicked, and his tomb with the rich, although he had done no violence, and there was no deceit in his mouth. And now may Jesus Christ, who for our sake became obedient unto death, even death on a cross, keep us and strengthen us this night and forever. Amen.